Wow, it feels weird to be talking alone in my basement again. What's up everyone, Andrew Baena here, finally back home with another new video. I'm going to be demoing the new TONEX pedal from IK Multimedia. This pedal came out about a month ago, but obviously I couldn't do the video until now. So I've been playing with it for the past few days, and I gotta say, it is pretty awesome. If you're unfamiliar with the TONEX ecosystem, essentially what TONEX is it allows you to capture your real amps, pedals, cabs, and use them in a digital form, much like a Kemper or a Quad Cortex. But with the original TONEX software that came out a few months back that I demoed, you can have that in a plugin. And now with this pedal, you can bring those tones with you live or to a practice or whatever you want. So it is very cool stuff. I'll go more into the specs and details and features of this pedal very soon. But first and foremost, as you all know, I like to give you a clip of what the pedal actually sounds like in a full demo mix first and foremost. So for this full demo mix, I'm going to be using my Aristides 060R. It is tuned to drop C, and I'm going to be playing a portion of a song called Fragments of a Bitter Memory from Dying Wish. For this demo, I was modeling my Rev 100P, which you can see in the background here. So this is more or less a digital version of that real amp, going through one of the included cab sims that is included on the TONEX pedal. I know that's a lot of details, but I had to give a little bit of context before I just jump into the demo mix, because otherwise you're going to be like, what are you doing? After I show you the full demo mix, we're going to come back, talk about the specs and features of this pedal, and go through a bunch of the different presets with other guitars tuned lower, because I know y'all want to hear that 7 and 8 string tone as well. But before all of that, here's what the TONEX pedal sounds like in a full demo mix. Okay, now that you've heard how the TONEX pedal sounds in a full demo mix, we're going to talk about the specs and features of this pedal. So first and foremost, I briefly talked about this in the intro, but if you're unfamiliar with the TONEX ecosystem, basically what it does is it allows you to either capture your own amps, cabs, pedals, or use over 1,000 models that are included in the ecosystem by default, especially when you purchase this pedal, or of course download other people's tone models from the ToneNet, which is basically a cloud of everyone's presets and tone models. So that's like the big picture of what the TONEX ecosystem looks like. What the TONEX pedal does in particular is it basically allows you to take those tone models, put them into the pedal itself, and then bring those tone models with you live to practices or to plug it directly into an interface or to use it as an interface itself. So basically, if you don't want to use the plugin or the software, you got it all right here. The TONEX pedal does also double as an audio interface, so you don't need an additional audio interface. You can plug it in via USB and record just like that. No need for additional hardware. In my case, that's not how I was using it. I was recording using the single left mono output into my existing interface, just because for my purposes, that's a little bit easier. So taking a look at the actual TONEX pedal itself, it looks and feels very premium. I like the graphics on it. Everything feels very solid. You know, it's obviously a metal chassis with a display screen, some knobs. A couple of them have press options to access alternate parameters, and then 3 foot switches at the bottom here. It all looks and feels pretty premium. The foot switches are a little stiff. If you're using your fingers, it's a little bit hard to use, but I mean, that's pretty much the case for any stomp box. Obviously, it's meant to be on the floor, used with your foot, and then in that case, it doesn't matter. The only thing that I don't like about the design of the TONEX pedal is the display. I'm coming at this from the perspective of somebody who is more used to things like the Quad Cortex or the Helix and stuff like that, where it has like a big, multicolor touchscreen display that is very intuitive to use. So this one was a little bit trickier at first because it's kind of dialing it back. You just got this single display that just shows text only, and it doesn't show that much text. So there are some menu options where basically the text will scroll across the screen. That's the only thing I kind of don't love about the look and feel of the pedal itself, but that's just my personal preference. I know some people probably don't really care about that, so there you go. In addition to the main display, there's also this sub-display on the bottom here which says amp, alt, or cab, and this basically notifies you of what type of preset you're using. So if you're using a preset that has an amp and a cab like I am, it will show both of those indicators on, and then there's this alt switch which goes on or off depending on if you are using the alt function or not. I'll explain that a little bit more in a section. And then the amp and cab indicators also are multicolored, so they change colors depending on what type of preset you're using, or what type of tone model you're using in your preset rather. So looking at the actual pedal, first and foremost we have the model knob right here, which is a clickable button. To the right we have a scroll wheel to cycle through your presets, and it also doubles as the back button if you press it, and if you press and hold it, it also saves your preset if you make any adjustments to your preset on the pedal. Next up we have the parameter knob, which is right here. This one is also clickable, so you can see the alternate parameters for your preset. So in this case it is the model volume, and of course you can also change what that does. Again, if you actually click and hold this, you can see that the alt light turns on, and I'll explain that in a little bit here. Then we have the gain knob, bass knob, mid knob, treble knob, and volume knob. But as you can see on the bottom of each of these, it also has reverb, compressor, noise gate, presence, and depth. So like I was saying, if you press and hold the alt knob, then basically that enables the alternate function of each of these. So now this, instead of controlling gain, controls reverb, compressor, noise gate, presence, depth. You get the point. So pretty much the way that presets are stored in this device is in banks of 3. So in this instance, we're in bank 0, and we have tone A, B, or C. So if you press both foot switches at the same time, you can either bank down or up. So if you press B and C, for example, you can see that it's going from bank 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then once you're in the bank you want, you click one of the buttons to go to the corresponding preset within that bank. So again, now we're in bank 4, and we have 3 different presets. And again, if you want to go back up to that first bank, there you go, and we're back to the preset that I started at. Okay, and flipping the pedal over to the back view, we can see the inputs and outputs on the back. So we have the input, the left and right output. I'm using the left output for a mono output. Headphone output, MIDI in and out, external control, USB, and the 9-volt power supply. So this device is fully MIDI programmable, so if you don't want to use any of the controls and foot switches on here, you can fully MIDI program it. I personally have not tried that because I'm not currently using this in a live setting, so I just had no reason to explore that. And then for the external control, you can, hook up a expression pedal or something like that to control, let's say, the volume or the gain or so on and so forth, pretty much any aspect of the pedal. So what I'm going to do next is show you what a few of the different presets on the TONEX pedal sound like by themselves, because I know you want to hear what the guitar sounds like outside of a full mix, of course. So first and foremost, I'm going to be using the preset that I was using during the full mix demo, which again is a tone model that I created based on my personal Rev 100P. You can also download this tone model yourself if you want to use it. Just search Andrew Baena on the ToneNet and you can download it for free and try it out yourself. Please note that you will have to pair this amp with one of the cab sims on the TONEX pedal or your own impulse response or whatever. In my case, I was using one of the tone models that's included in the TONEX pedal, which is the orange PPC 412 cab. But that's enough talk, let's hear how the TONEX pedal sounds. Okay, so now that you've heard how the TONEX pedal sounds, I'm going to give some of my thoughts and opinions on this device. So in my opinion, the TONEX ecosystem sounds really, really good. Like I said, I've been using their plugin for the past few months. They sponsored a different video of mine where I tried it out first, and I thought it sounded really good. I personally really like the ability to capture my physical amps and use them in a plugin setting, and it's nice that I can now take that plugin in a physical device if I chose to use it live or something like that. So it's just like an added bonus to the TONEX ecosystem. So if you're already into that ecosystem, I think it's probably a no-brainer to grab this pedal. I also think it's very impressive that the TONEX pedal is coming in at only $400 US. For what it is, that is a very, very competitive price point. Obviously, it's trying to compete with, like, you know, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, Line 6 Helix, Axe-Fx, Kemper, all that stuff, and this is way cheaper than all of those. I also think it was a really good move of them to allow you to download an unlimited amount of tone models from users. There are tons of awesome tone models on the ToneNet, and what that allows you to do is basically download other people's tone models and make your own presets using those. So if you're not one of those people that's looking to model or capture your own amps or pedals, don't worry about that. You can download other people's or use some of the ones that are included, because there are a lot of options. The only two things that I wish were a little bit better on this device is, number one, like I mentioned, the screen. I think that the screen, the amount of information that it gives you is very limited and does make it a little cumbersome to navigate with the onboard buttons, if you will. However, if you do plug it in with USB and use the included software, it's way easier. So I personally would recommend using the app or the software to control it rather than, you know, fiddling around with the device display, because it's a lot easier. So if you have access to a computer, I would strongly recommend that. The only other thing that I really wish that it offered that I think would have just brought it up another level is if it actually allowed you to combine different tone models of stomp boxes and amps. So for example, if you wanted to combine like a tube screamer and a 5150 or something like that, currently there isn't really a way to do that technically. What you would have to do is find someone who has captured the tube screamer and the 5150 together as like one block, so to speak. There isn't really a way to combine those two different things into one preset, which is a bit of a bummer. I really wish that that was a feature that they allowed you to do, maybe in a future update or a different device down the line. I'm not really sure. I just think that would have really brought its competitive edge up even further. But, you know, it's not the end of the world, because again, a lot of people are capturing their own tone models out there, and I'm sure you can find some combination of stomp box and amp that you can use anyways. It just would have been nice to have that extra control or added bonus of being able to shape your tone a little bit more like that. Okay, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to IK Multimedia for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in grabbing your own TONEX pedal, you can find the link to that in the description or the pinned comment below. Big thank you to them once again for sponsoring this video, and of course a massive thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. Thank you all so much for watching. It's good to be home, and I look forward to reading all of your comments.